It is not enough to make findings in life. It is high time we begin to turn all our findings into what we call a reality. You begin to turn your findings into reality. It is not enough to make findings in life, to do investigation. It is high time we begin to turn all our findings and investigation into what we call a product that people will see. It is not enough to make findings in life. It is high time we begin to turn all our findings into what we call components. How do we turn them? For instance, now, most of us have done a lot of findings on family life. It is high time we begin to turn those things that you have learned in family life into reality. You've read all manners of books, then go and get married. You know, most of us have read all manners of books concerning business, how to start small business. Go and put them to work. It is not enough to do some findings. Go and start small. Go and begin small. You have all manners of knowledge concerning family life. Then start it small. And before you know, you grow it. These are the things people neglect. A lot of findings. Some of you, you've done all manners of finding on type of governance. How to govern the nation. You didn't join politics? Even your house, you can't even govern it. You see, that is why we must begin to exercise all what we have found over time. So it is not enough. You must begin to act on what we have able to provide on the table. I said it here. I said it is not what we think that translates into what we take. It is what we do with what we think that give us our takes. It is what we think with what we do with what we think that give us our takes. It is not what we do, what we say that translate into what we see. No. It is what we do with what we say that translate into what we see. So you see, we must begin to think and do what we think. We must begin to say and do what we say so that we can see it. Most of us have done a lot of findings on career breakthrough. It is enough. Translate all those career breakthrough that you have gone through, series of findings, into profitable living. You know, when your findings have not brought profits to you, then you have not done anything. Your findings must bring what we call profitings to you. Your findings must bring up what we call profitings to you. Your findings must bring up what we call profitings to you. You have enough information in your possession. Let it reflect by acting on it. Let it reflect by acting on it. The world is not looking for information holders. They are looking for information givers and translators of information. Finding is good, but act on every of your findings. Finding is good. You find out about family life, translate it. You find about business, translate it. You find out about career breakthrough, translate it. You find out about, how to get promotion quickly, translate it. You find out how people are lifted, translate it. It is not enough to find our findings. It is also good that you translate every of your findings into profitable living. 70% of our findings are not applicable. That is why we find ourselves where we are. 70% of our findings are not applicable in nature. Why is our nation where we are today? We find out how those people in the other part of the world are doing it. Not that we don't have information. We have the findings, but we are not translators. We have the findings, but we are not translators. We have the findings, but we are not transformers. We can't transform things. Until your finding is transformed, until your findings is translated, you cannot see profitings. The reason why we are where we are, as a person, as a family, as a nation, is because our findings are not being translated. Our findings have not been transformed. Our findings have not evolved over time. So the future you don't see is because your findings have not been used. The future you don't see is because your findings have not been used. The future you don't see is because your findings have not been used. The future that you see is because your findings have been put to use. You know, and that is why there are features of life that finding gives, and you must begin to exercise those features so that they can give you properties. It is high time we begin to translate all our findings into realities. Let's begin to see the future. We've copied something from here. Let's translate it in our country. We've copied something in X-where. Let's translate it in our home. Good things copied. Let's translate it. Let's be part of us. And that is the way to go and enjoy the best of life. Finding is an act of uncovering. Finding is an act of dictating. It's an act of discovery. You keep discovering things and you begin to translate it in a way that it works for you. And I said it here, nothing works in life when finding is not put to work. How to make finding profitable? Because you have to understand how you make your finding profitable. That is the only thing. Not just sit down thinking that, I have arrived. No. Every of your finding must return to you with profits. Every of your finding must return with you with tangible effect. You know, our nation must not remain where we are. Africa must not remain where we are. We have found out how other countries and continents are doing their home. We must translate it into profitable living for us. And how all these findings and the future in those findings must be put together. How to make finding profitable? Number one, we must appreciate the findings. We must appreciate the finding. Whatever you don't appreciate, you don't see. Whatever you don't appreciate, you may not be able to put it as a future. You know, why most of those things we have learned from outside place or from other people who are ahead of us, why we have not seen as a real future in our own life is because we have not appreciated those findings. We don't appreciate those findings. So you must appreciate every finding. You learn something from me, appreciate where you have learned from. And now duplicate it because they are good pattern to live in. Number two, be ready to work with the process. Every findings have a process until it becomes a product. Every findings have a process until we become a product. You have gotten some findings about family life. Now, what is the process to get it to the real life? The question is, most of us get the information, but we leave it and left it undone. So you see, we can't win through when we are with the findings and not looking for how to work those findings into futures. No. Get the working mechanism. Get the working principle of every findings so that you can produce the future you need. Number three, how to make finding property. Before we go, have a courageous mentality. Have a courageous mentality. If you don't have courage to make that finding work, you will not see. You've learned something. You must find courage to bring it on board. Courageous mentality. Courageous mentality. Every of our governance or government or people who are ruling us, when they travel, they see good things outside. But it takes courage for them to translate it into a future that in our nation. Sometimes when I travel, I see good things. But it takes courage for me to translate it back. So you need courageous mentality. You need courage mentality so that we can get the best of living. You need a courageous mentality to get those findings into work. And lastly, you must work with time. One of the way to make finding profitable is working with time. Every finding that is not time stipulated will never find the output of it. You can never find the output. You must have your time stipulated with every finding. You discover something, make time tag with it. Okay, this is the time the thing will need to work in my life. Every time I get something good news, I take it back home. See, this is it, oh babe. That's fine. We activate it on time. We work on the process and we activate it on time. And we begin to make use of it. And that is the way to make life better. So putting your findings to work is essential. By appreciating the finding, by being ready to work through the process, have courageous mentality, and now work with time. And before you know, what everyone is struggling to get, you are having it at way. Welcome on board. Thanks.